When to get out of urethane? That's the question. That's what we're going to answer this video. What's up, guys? BrunsNick's back, and that's exactly what we're talking about. You're striking all day, you're having fun with urethane, but all of a sudden, things change, the lanes transition. When is it time to actually put the urethane ball down and go to resin? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, but before we get to all that, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Now, let's talk about urethane balls and when to ditch them. All right. What do you know? Another video about urethane. Have we beaten urethane to death yet? No, I don't think so. I don't really think so. So in this video, we're going to talk about when is the time to get out of urethane and start throwing resin. Now, this is going to apply to a scenario where you start with urethane and you're doing really well. But as we might know, sometimes you can't always use urethane the whole way. So when is the appropriate time to get out of urethane ball and start using resin? And what are the moves that are going to happen? So we're going to throw some shots. We're going to try to break down this lane, and we're just going to talk about it. I'm bowling on PBA wolf pattern, short pattern, and we're just going to go from there. So eventually we hope to break this lane down, and we'll talk about it. So generally, when we're throwing urethane, at least on a short pattern like this scenario, is we're playing urethane out by the gutter. Now, in tournament or league situations, you're probably not going to bowl in a league with this unless it's a sport league or whatever, but you're going to have other traffic on the lane. So this isn't going to be a real world experience, but we're going to talk about the moves anyway. So I'm going to try to break them down, like I said. So early on, you're going to feel like the king or queen throwing urethane out. You got the nuts, you can't miss. When you do miss, it's just leaving a 10 pin or a 4 pin or whatever. Uh-oh. Or a freaking 8 pin. That's normal. I mean, I missed quite a bit there. So right now, I got so much room on the lane, there's no chance that I'm getting out of urethane. So let's just break them down a little bit more and then talk about it some more. But there are some key things that you're going to need to look for when you're using urethane, and maybe you're switching pairs, so it might change a little bit there, but some things that should throw up the red flags about, uh-oh, I should start to maybe look into getting something different. Ah, come on. And the first thing is when the ball starts to read incredibly early. So chances are you're bowling in a tournament, there's going to be other people in the same zone as you. If they're smart, they're going to be throwing urethane, they're going to be throwing a lot of surface. So what's going to happen is that area is going to start burning up, especially at the laydown points. So there's other ways you can get around it. Some people move in a little bit as they start to transition, but sometimes moving in is not always an option with urethane. It's usually never an option with urethane. So as that spot breaks down, it's going to start using its friction even earlier and laboring on the back. Let's see if we can't get an example of that. So right now they are still fairly fresh. I've only shot one video on these prior, but the main thing is the ball's going to see friction early, and it's going to get down the lane and kind of not have any energy left for the pins. You're going to be leaving flat 10s, maybe even worse, leaving like 4-5 combinations, 5-7, just not driving through the pins. So right there, alarm bells should be going up in your head. You're going to question, did I throw that one good? Because we all know you never make an adjustment off a bad shot. Did I throw that one okay? Did I miss in? Did I overthrow it? Did I push it through the break point? But that's going to be a key indicator, is that your ball just doesn't recover on the back. Now you can always adjust your feet and move further right, get up on top of the gutter, but if they are truly burnt in the fronts, and you got to start moving, resin might be an option. You might start thinking about it. But where do we go from there? That's the next question. When we switch to resin, if that is the case, and that is the case in this video, what is my move? Because I can't just switch to resin and stand in the same spot. Because by the time you're making your change out of urethane, because some people never change out of urethane, but say you're bowling an 8-game block, and by game 5, you start seeing it. You start seeing that ball reading early and laboring on the back, where you try to battle it and you start going maybe 4-pin, you increase speed a little bit, you leave a flat 10. That's when you know you're not getting that ball to face up, the urethane ball to face up into the pocket. So let's throw a few more shots. Let's really try to break these down. I might bowl a bunch off camera just to get some lane play on here. But that's kind of a telltale sign right there is, all right, I just 2-4-5'd. The ball labored on the back early on. That was using the friction early, but now we got some carry down. Now we got some burn up in the front. So effectively, we made the pattern longer, but with a dirt trap in the front. So not quite the same. So my first adjustment off of something like that is actually to move a little bit further right. I'm going to try to stay with more speed, and I'm going to try to stay more on top of it. Get out of that zone a little bit. So I'm going to move like 2 right, and I'm going to try to square it up even more to stay outside a little bit earlier. All right, it got back with the small adjustment, but as you tell, urethane balls, they tend to hook a little bit less as you get more lane play on them, because the oil stays in the shell and it effectively doesn't create as much friction. So where you start with urethane, you might have to square up and move further right as the night goes on. Let's throw one more shot here. Let's see if we can't get this ball to face up. That's the main thing. I got to get that ball through the pins in order to strike effectively. So that one wasn't there. I'm going to move another one and really try to get my eyes up the lane here. All right, yeah, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. The ball is just not hitting very hard right now. So let's make the change. Let's commit. Let's experiment. You know, 10th frame, fill ball. What are we gonna do? What's the move? So obviously I'm staying out there. I'm out there by 3 boards, somewhere in there. Now, I can't just use resin. I need to get inside of it a little bit and use some of that carry down to my advantage. That's gonna be the key, is when you move in with resin, you're gonna have to make a bigger jump than say a 3-2, 3-2, 4-2, a minor move. You might have to move entire zones. That's the important thing. That's the important thing to remember. Don't get trapped into making small moves and wasting frames trying to get to where you need to get to. So from here, let's go to an NV Tour. I have a hazmat here. I might try that as well. But we're gonna move 2 zones. We're gonna move like 10. I'm gonna move 10. So, where I was standing out here, we're gonna make this big move here. So here's 5, here's 10. So we're gonna see if there is enough, and this is like purely a guess at this point. We're gonna see if I got enough carry down and the oils transition enough that I can get this ball down the lane and then back through the pins. Call that bucket crumbler. All right, all kidding aside, awesome break. Now, the zones I moved, obviously a guess. That was way too much. Now, could I use a more responsive ball because that ball is still a little bit too slow? We can try it, but I'm probably a little bit too far left. I obviously still want to get the ball out to the break point to where I was, but let's try a different ball in that same zone, and then we'll try moving right. So we're going to switch up to a hazmat now, and we're going to stay in that same zone and see if this one should be a little more responsive, I think. Yeah, a little too much. So that tells me that the lanes are not ready for a shiny ball yet. The lanes are not ready for a skid flip type ball. There's still plenty of action out there, so we're gonna go back to the Envy Tour and we're gonna move our feet. We're gonna move our feet 2 boards right. We're gonna start there. So instead of the 10 boards right that I was, we're only gonna be 8. And we're still trying to get that ball out to about 3 board at the break point. We need to get it out towards the friction. All right, so there's the 10. We're gonna move 2 and see where we're at. All right, that wasn't bad, wasn't great, but that tells me that I'm getting closer to the right zone. Now, there's 2 things I could do here. I could continue to move back to the right a little bit because there's plenty of oil still in the front from that angle, from that launch angle, but I don't want to creep into the spot where everybody started. So that would be the Bermuda Triangle. We want to avoid the burn and stay away from it. The other option is to bring the speed down and play the same zone. The first thing I'm going to do is move further right. I'm going to move another 2. So instead of the 8, we're going to be 6 from where we were with urethane. So there's the 8 and there. So now we are 6 left of where we were from urethane. Let's keep that speed up. Uh-oh, that's in. See, that's going to be the risk you run when switching out of urethane too early and getting into resin. Even a smoother ball like Envy Tour is still resin ball. It's still going to respond very hard if you miss in. I missed in there, I paid the price. It's so important not to jump the gun and move too far in too quick on a short pattern. You really got to do everything you can to stay out there. Let's try it again. Let's get this ball actually at my break point. Yep. All right. Not able to get this ball through the pins. I thought I got that perfectly in the spot that I needed to. I'm just not getting this ball through the pins. So let's try less ball speed from further in. Let's do that. So we're gonna take that original move of 10 boards where I did the bucket crumbler. I think the 8 board move is gonna be right. I'm gonna go the 8. I'm gonna bring the speed just down a little bit. We're gonna see what happens. I don't know if this is gonna work or not, but let's try it. Let's bring the speed down. Oh, all right. Yeah, I don't feel comfortable personally doing that. So, you know, bringing your speed down, I don't think that's gonna be an option right now. I mean, right now the ball seems to be laboring. You know, it doesn't matter what I tend to be doing, and that's what makes these patterns hard, especially when they break down, is getting that ball to face up the pocket properly. Now, I could try a different kind of skid flip ball, maybe not symmetrical, because, you know, I want that ball to maybe start up and burn up more energy, so I might use an asymmetrical ball. There's other options like Envy Tour Pearl, something that may not flare a lot. But from one extreme, you know, the Hazmat has so much skid flip to it that it might be an option. I might have to work on it, but let's try it. I'm gonna try it in that same spot because it's been very uncontrollable, but we'll see. Nope. Yeah. Yeah, there's just no chance of getting that ball from in. If I try to play it out, I don't know how that's gonna work either. Let's try moving it right. Let's try getting closer to the friction, because if I miss in with that ball, no chance with that ball. 0. All right, that's just a struggle right now to get that ball through the pins from any angle. So it's really important. If you're striking with urethane and you're comfortable with it, you better make dang well sure that when you get out of it and make that choice to go to resin, that you're making the right choice. Don't do it too early. Find all the tricks in your bag as far as hand positions, ball speed, loft. Do everything you can, especially if you're scoring a ton with urethane to start. Because sometimes going to resin is a hard choice met with tough consequences. That looked all right. Try to come more up the back of it, a little more ball speed. So the options are there. Now, let's throw a couple more shots with urethane to maybe confirm. We don't typically move in with urethane and try to hook around the lane. You just don't. Make sure you say you're sorry to it. I should have never changed, should have never left. But I think if you're gonna have the struggle bus with trying to get through the pins, you're better off playing them from straighter angles with a control ball. Get out of there. Nothing hits like a hammer. So that's the main thing. If you can use urethane the entire tournament and you can keep up with the scoring pace or keep up with how many strikes, they're very tough and the scoring pace is only 205, 210. Doesn't make sense to go to resin. I mean, unless you can really have the nuts with resin, there's gonna be scenarios where that happens. But if you're just looking to make the cut, make the finals, match play, stick with urethane. I'm gonna throw one more shot and we're gonna talk about one last thing in the final. I'm a messenger machine. So that's all. Bottom line is get good with urethane. If you're dynamic with urethane and you're good on short patterns with it, there should be almost no reason why you need to switch into resin. There shouldn't really be a reason. You tell me if I got that wrong. But that's all. That's when you get out of urethane. And some of the things you might run into when bowling on shorter patterns and trying to make that transition into resin from urethane. It's not always small moves. Sometimes it's gigantic zone moves. Hope this video helped. If it did, please consider subscribing. Talk to you guys soon and Happy New Year.